I think now the question is, I was reading, I think an interview you did with The Root on, you gave some opinions on Occupy Wall Street. And I was thinking now, and especially just listening to Bob Herbert, he was saying how all these movements accomplished a lot, but they ultimately flamed out. And in wanting to start maybe a more sustainable movement, what do you think is like the first thing, or what are some of the things that we should really focus on?
I think if you really look at the way in which justice is administered, you'd find that the first thing that's really in need of repair, everybody needs a job, we should have work and, you know, fair wages and fair employment and all that stuff. But there's an underlying essence that's hardly ever discussed, and it's justice. Because it is how justice reveals itself in the midst of these efforts that ultimately tells you what kind of a course are you on. Now, it is mind-boggling to me that there should have been men with great power who stole the national treasury in the tune of trillions of dollars that cannot be found, that cannot be reclaimed. And when it came time to look at justice and how to stop this insanity, those who repaired the moment left the very same people who did all this mischief in the same seats of power and decision-making without any discussion or debate and answers to the nation. How is it possible that we can still be sitting here having decisions made at this very moment by the very same people who stole the treasury just yesterday and were the same thugs, the same villains, the same corrupt forces? How do they prevail? And what is it in the public discourse, in the protection of public policy, that makes us all capitulate to that, to let us accept it? Where's the protest? Where's the resistance? Who is that says, oh, hold on, you guys can't go any further. Let's discuss this problem, because they're preparing for your next demise. They haven't changed at all. What they're looking at is what they think were the mistakes they made, and now they're fixing it so those mistakes will not be repeated. They'll create new ones. And how do they do that? You've got a Supreme Court that's locked against justice. It's a court that's locked to an ideology, and that ideology has undermined justice all the way. So if you change the checks and balances that were created by the Founding Fathers in order to keep the machine of government active and creative and thinking and protecting the populace, and once that's dissolved, you get the Congress. Now the Republicans control the House. They're on their way to try to control the Senate. Those two, which were watchdogs for each other, now become one ideology. They wrap up with the executive branch because the President of the United States has not used his bully pulpit to move justice along. He's been politically fanciful in the way he's manipulated the system from a political, but the villainy still prevails. How do you challenge that? How do you make it not so? And I think all these things are being ignored, or people are being distracted. But if you don't look at what happens to justice, if you look at Homeland Security, the law that is the law of the land, any one of us sitting in this room could leave this room, or not even leave the room. Two guys could walk in here and command any one of you, overwhelm you, take you out to a car, whisk you away, and the world will never hear from you again by the approval of law. You don't get charged because they don't have to charge you with a crime, don't have to tell you what you did. You have no right to a lawyer. You have no right to one phone call. Absolutely nothing. And the law says we can do that. And that law was passed. And when Barack Obama became the President of the United States, he inherited that law. And in his campaign, he denounced that law. So my problem with him isn't whether he gave the bank $700 billion or not. My problem with him is, where is your moral center? Where is your line? How can you look at this injustice that prevails as part of the law of the land with your power as the presidency to change it? You don't need the Congress to change it. Ultimately you do. But certainly in these early stages, you could, with the stroke of executive order and a pen, change some of this, challenge some of it, awaken the public to the fact that these laws, but He doesn't do that. So we sit in this moral vacuum. We sit in a place where nobody leads us to the higher order or to the greater truth. So we sit here dealing with all these things in these sub-issues, in these subterranean ways. We're busy watching what's in the mousetrap while somebody else is running off with the entire wedge of cheese.